Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of reading material, the research, the notes, the industry analysis, and try to find the signal in the noise. Today, we've got a deep dive that was custom-tailored for a professional agency owner who is, well, just tired. Understandably tired of the constant flow of new acronyms, new buzzwords, all designed to panic clients into new contracts.
Okay.
So we are dissecting Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO, and its cousin, AIO. The mission is simple. Are these real technical shifts, or are we just watching the latest round of marketing jargon?
And we can give you the verdict right away. Based on all the analysis, the unfiltered truth is that GEO and AIO are about 90% pure marketing rebranding.
90%.
Yeah. They exist to create a new category and, frankly, to justify much higher prices.
So if an agency owner hears this and starts to panic, they're probably overreacting to a sales pitch.
That's the brutal take. But, and this is really critical, that remaining 10% is an undeniable technical reality. And it demands attention. Because the way large language models, the LLMs, ingest and synthesize information is just fundamentally different from a traditional crawler. You can ignore the 90% hype, but if you ignore that 10%, you risk being completely bypassed.
Okay, let's unpack this in order then. First, let's look at that 90%, the sales strategy, and then we'll get into the crucial 10%, the technical truth that you actually need to act on. So let's start with the why. Why are these shiny new terms, GEO, AIO, bubbling up right now?
It really feels like we've been through this before. We spent years talking about optimizing for voice search, which frankly turned out to be a pretty minor change in practice. What's driving this? The driver this time is it's purely economic, and it's all about the commoditization of classic SEO. 5 years ago, you could charge a real premium just for fixing basic technical stuff, pointing out canonical errors, speeding up a site. But today, that's just basic hygiene. It's expected. Most clients, and more importantly, most competitors, have already automated that stuff. So if everyone can run an audit and point out core web vitals, you can't charge thousands for it anymore.
It becomes a price war.
Exactly.
So the classic audit is table stakes. It's not a premium service. It's just an assumption. So agencies have to create a new high-value problem that only they can solve.
You've got it. And that is where this blue ocean strategy comes in. The whole idea is to invent a new category, GEO, AIO, whatever you want to call it, that makes every competitor's contract sound instantly obsolete.
It's sort of like saying, stop using your rotary phone, we're selling the future. But really, you're just selling an iPhone with the software update.
Precisely. The pitch to the client completely changes. It's not about how well you do SEO anymore. It's about what kind of optimization you do. The conversation becomes, oh, your current agency, they do SEO. That's, 2010 stuff. We do GEO. We're preparing you for SGE.
But hang on, if this service is mostly a repackaged semantic audit, how does the agency justify charging so much more? Won't the client eventually realize they've just bought the same thing twice?
That's the critical point of the 90%. The new jargon is a shield. The sources show that an audit GEO is often just a really good semantic audit, but it's sold for 2 to 3 times more because of this AI complexity. You're selling preparation for a scary-sounding disruption. And the brutal reality is that most of what's sold as GEO today is just semantic SEO done with extreme discipline. Specifically, it's all about expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
That's helpful. So if you're already creating high-authority content structured around a clear topic written by real experts, you're basically already doing GEO.
You're already there. You just haven't paid someone to print a fancy brochure about it yet. The key takeaway for you listening is this. Don't panic. If you've been doing genuinely good work for the last 3 years, you're already mostly optimized.
Okay, that's a necessary dose of skepticism. But let's put the jargon aside. Where does the tech actually change the game? Where does that essential 10% live?
That 10% lives in the mechanics of how these systems consume information. We're moving from a system that organizes to a system that synthesizes. And this isn't just theory. It's based on real research from places like Princeton and Google DeepMind.
Okay, so let's draw that line clearly. What's the fundamental technical difference?
Okay, think of it this way. Googlebot, the classic crawler, is like a librarian. It indexes pages, it classifies them, and its goal is to rank the best page for a query. It wants to send you to the right shelf in the library. The main success metric is the click.
Right. It's all about getting you to the best destination.
But LLMs are not librarians. They're expert synthesists. They don't really care about the best page overall. They ingest millions of pages to find the best, most verifiable fragment of a response.
So it's not sending you to the shelf. It's pulling a few sentences from 100 different books, stitching them together, and just handing you the finished paragraph right there.
It is. And this creates three concrete differences that are not buzzwords. They are real structural changes.
All right, let's go through them. First, the objective.
The objective shifts from traffic to credibility. Traditional SEO, the goal is the click. For GEO or AIO, the objective is the citation getting your brand or data referenced inside that generated response, even if the user never clicks through to your site.
That's a huge mental shift for anyone who lives in Google Analytics. So if the click isn't the goal, what happens to the content format? We've been told for years to build these massive pillar pages.
And that old model worked for the crawler. But an LLM is all about efficiency. The winning format for GEO is direct, concise, structured answers. Think lists, tables, bolded definitions, things that are easy to scrape. If the AI has to read a 1,500-word essay to find one fact, it's probably just going to skip your page for one that gave it the fact in a bullet point right at the top.
And authority. What about backlinks? Did we spend 2 decades building links for nothing?
Not for nothing, but they're being balanced by new factors. Classic SEO relies heavily on backlinks. GEO and AIO, on the other hand, show a huge preference for contextual citations and entity co-occurrences. The LLM needs verified facts, not just popularity votes.
That's the key difference. The LLM needs proof to avoid hallucinating. And that leads us right to that Princeton study you mentioned. What was the big discovery there?
Exactly. This is the linchpin of the 10%. They found that just adding pertinent citations and unique statistics or figures drastically increased the probability, we're talking up to 30 or 40%, that an LLM would integrate that content into its answer.
30 to 40% is a massive lever. So why? Why does the LLM prioritize cited facts over a well-written article? Why does that academic-style proof matter so much to the machine?
It's programmed to avoid the hallucination problem. LLMs are engineered to be risk-averse. They are built to prioritize content that looks like factual proof anything with a citation, unique data, and expert source. It's a confidence score that lowers the machine's risk of being wrong.
Okay, that reframes everything. Let's make this actionable. For that e-commerce site, Velveto, or that B2B consultancy, SE Optimizers, what are the top non-negotiable steps they need to take?
Step 1 is to optimize your structure for RAGability.
Stop. We just threw out a big acronym. What is RAGability?
Good catch. RG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Basically, it means the AI is designed to retrieve verified fragments of info from external sources, like your website, to ground its answer, in fact. Your job is to make your content easy for it to pull from. This means you have to abandon that old SEO structure. The bad 2015 structure had a 300-word flowery intro. The good GEO structure has an immediate, bold, direct definition right at the top. Give the machine the answer first, then give the human the context.
Got it. Structure for easy retrieval. What's number 2?
Step 2 is cite to be cited. This is so important for B2B. You have to stop rehashing information and start creating unique, verifiable data. If Velveto sells orthopedic supports, they shouldn't just summarize guides. They need to run a small study. Our customer data shows X% faster recovery, and cite that. Models like Perplexity and SGE will favor sourcing that unique, validated content. You cite good data, the AI will cite you.
That's a huge shift. It means the content team suddenly needs to work with R&D to generate proprietary data. You become a research operation, not just a content mill.
Exactly. And the final point is to focus on the entity before the keyword. GEO is a game of connecting entities in the knowledge graph.
Let's use SE Optimizers as the example. Why do they need to connect their name to something niche like animal orthopedics?
Great question. This is about specialized authority. Let's say SE Optimizers has a niche. They are the go-to agency for veterinary supply distributors. They aren't trying to win broad queries. They're trying to become the trusted authority in that specific vertical. So they have to make sure their brand name, SE Optimizers, is repeatedly and semantically associated with their target entities. SEO, sure, but also veterinary supply chain, animal orthopedics. The LLM needs to see them as an authority in that specific niche.
So it's about signaling extreme specialization to the machine. You're making it easy for the AI to connect the dots between your brand and your expertise.
Precisely. You are building trust for the machine, which then becomes citations for you.
Okay, so let's bring this all together for that agency owner listening. The synthesis seems to be that GEO is technically real, but only because answer engines demand a much more rigorous factual structure than classic SEO ever did. The AI is just less tolerant of fluff.
That's the perfect summary. And for anyone who needs to communicate this shift, my advice is this. Do not sell GEO services as some magical potion. Instead, explain that you are optimizing their content for the era of direct answers. That phrase explains the technical shift, the need for rigor and data, and it justifies the premium on quality content without making you sound like a carpet salesman.
That reframing is the essential piece. It turns it from a buzzword into a quality investment. So we'll leave you with this final thought to consider. If the value of content is shifting away from driving the click to generating the citation, what other metrics in our digital economy need to be redefined? If you're cited 10,000 times but only get 10 clicks, did you win or lose? How will you track the value of being cited, not just visited? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.